And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be taking a look at what is going on in our crazy world and having a little bit of discussion, taking a look at some clips from the news and breaking them down, as it were. And you can join the live portion if you're listening to this somewhere else on YouTube Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prepper University, and that is at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Coffee Talk Chat and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. And of course, for the benefit of those of you who are listening and not able to see what's going on, I do read through as many of the comments as is plausible to help everyone keep up. And I'll go ahead and acknowledge a few people here that have chimed in so far. I see Helter has joined us, as well as Dragon. Waiting to see if anyone else says hello as other people are filling up into the room. I see Chillin' Dave is here. Glad you could join us today. As again, we get ready to dive off into the realm of the ridiculous and talk about what's happening in the world. What's happening in the world? Too much of one thing and not enough of another. And of course, you can hardly know what to trust anymore. They used to tell you that to trust none of what you hear and half of what you see. You can't even trust that much anymore. Can't even trust that much anymore, it seems. Fluke Man has joined us. And this is being a little slow. That is Restream. Being weird. As we get ready to jump off into our first article. Going back to the defense bill again, because there's an odd change in there that I think is important. Fox News article, House passes defense bill that automatically registers men 18 to 26 for the draft. Because as you are aware, in the United States, you are being driven or not, conscripted for warfare, forced to fight or flee or go to prison. That when you turn 18, by the time you're 19, when you're 18 years old, before your 19th birthday, you're supposed to register for the draft, which when I had to do it was at the post office. Just something that you're supposed to do. So now, in the digital age here, they're going to be doing it automatically. I see Legends has joined us today. So here we go. The House of Representatives passed a measure on Friday automatically registering men 18 to 25 for selective service. I like how they call it selective service, makes it sound almost like you're volunteering. Well, you're forced to volunteer. It's funny how it works when you think about it. You have to register for the draft. Drafting is conscripting people into military service by force. But the concept of selective service, just to clarify, is that you are volunteering to register for the draft. But if you don't, then you're up to your eyeballs in all sorts of legal problems. Trust me, they will ruin your life. So here we go. It was part of the annual National Defense Authorization Act, which sets out the U.S. government's military and national security priorities over the next fiscal year. The NDAA authorizes $895.2 billion in military spending, a $9 billion increase from 2024. And we talked about this a little bit last week, that $895 billion compared to some of the other programs already being funded by the federal government isn't as much as you think. It isn't as much as you think. They spend more on public school. More, I think, $213 billion per quarter on public schools. 1.5 trillion on Social Security, and so on. The interest. Oh, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. It's almost $800 billion for the public schools, but it's $213 billion per quarter for the for the interest on the national debt. So there's a lot of things, and there's others. There's other things that are more expensive than the national debt. JD says they'd rather sit in jail than participate in any of the wars America's handlers are getting us into. And Chillin says Gen Z is feral. Good luck with the draft. And Legend says, yeah, they're doing it because plenty of young men are openly choosing not to. And then Garth says they signed up when they got a job at the post office when he was 18. He's 24 and still not going if they draft me. But yeah, once you register for the draft, though, if you don't go, they'll put you in jail. And, you're a felon automatically. And then, that ruins your, it causes it's a whole domino effect of problems. But it's done on purpose to force you to cooperate. Unless you want to run away. And as I recall, Canada wasn't very accepting of draft resistors during the 60s. It says supporters of the amendment argue it would cut down on bureaucratic red tape and help U.S. citizens avoid unnecessary legal issues, as well as cutting down on the taxpayer dollars going towards prosecuting those cases. Yeah, that's great. By using available federal databases, the Selective Service Agency will be able to register all of the individuals required and help to ensure that any future military draft is fair and equitable. None of it is fair and equitable if it's a war you want nothing to do with. Hulton said during the debate last month, according to Defense News, this will also allow us to reduce resources, basically that means money, towards reading readiness and towards mobilization rather than towards education and advertising campaigns driven to register people. What advertising campaigns? When do you ever see them advertising that you have to register for the draft? Have you ever seen a commercial for it or a magazine ad? Who are they advertising to and how? Maybe I missed something. Helter says, worst part is this country hates men now. It's a double insult, dying for the country that hates you. Yeah, that's a good point. And Dragon says, fair and equitable draft that only drafts men. That is correct. And Legend says, reason I know that several over the years have openly told me that I'm glad I'm out of the 20s. Yeah, you can't get a passport. There's a lot of things that they can do to you to make your life miserable, to force you to register. And Mars is here. And then Chillin' Dave says, let those woke freaks go and fight. Let them go and die, you mean? Because I can't see them getting army tough. I couldn't see any of them making it through making it through boot camp like you see in Full Metal Jacket. With Gunny, remember Gunny in Full Metal Jacket? His scenes made that whole movie. I bet you could suck a golf ball through a garden hose. But if you said that to the recruits now, they'd probably demonstrate it. You know what this makes me think of too is this forced draft registration or automatic registration. There's a lot of room for error there. A lot of room for error in something like that, in automatic registration. Going way back now to Different Strokes. Who remembers the show Different Strokes? I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but an episode comes to my remembrance where Arnold Drummond, the adopted boy, gets a notification that he had failed to register for the draft. Does this sound familiar? And Mr. Drummond brings him in to show, hey, look, kid's like 9. You've made a mistake. And they're like, oh, the government don't make mistakes. But they get it sorted at the end that obviously this is the wrong Arnold Drummond. And they find the right one. And they bring him in, and he's like 80-something. And he's like, Arnold Drummond reporting for duty. So I know I exaggerate, but there's a lot of room for error in something like that. I could see people who are handicapped getting automatically registered, people who are unsuitable, people with mental disabilities being automatically drafted or registered because they're male and turned 18. Chillin says, so send our boys and men off to fight, so the only ones left in the country are illegals. Sounds dumb. Maybe we should draft them. Maybe we should do something like the The French Foreign Legion. We'll let you be a citizen if you put in so much time in the military service. That's what we should do. You know, there's only ever, if I'm not mistaken, look this up if I'm wrong, there's only ever been one female in the French Foreign Legion. One. And I believe it was a nurse during World War II. Flukeman says, if men go in hiding from the draft, they'll track you via your phone. Yeah, they'll find you. Oh, trust me, they'll find you. And Jane is here. Says, is Trump going to use black man or woman as his vice president? No idea. No idea what he's up to. No idea what he's up to. Now, this is something that's really interesting. And it's Russian news. Some Russian news here for you. See if you've seen this. One more comment here really quick. Garsh says, so men have to register. Some in Washington want to make women. Any word on if the other genders will have to as well? Yeah, I know. Because from the military perspective, there is only two. You can check off whatever you want, but you're going to fall into two categories. Period. You're going to end up falling into two categories. And there's a lot of things military, from the military perspective, that that females are not suited for. They're just not. And all you have to do is just look at the statistics. How many female SEALs do you think there are, or Green Berets, or Rangers? There's none. How many female fighter pilots do you think there are? If I remember correctly, there's only one that's ever qualified, because females can't handle the G-forces that the males are subjected to. So there's a lot of stuff from a military perspective. Also, they're in more danger on the battlefield, especially if taken prisoner. And you could go on and on and on. There's a reason why they want to keep them separate, but they want to pretend like they're included at the same time. I see Monkey has joined us as we move into some news from Russia. From Russia. Doing it the right way. This is a Telegraph article. Islamic State prisoners liquidated as Russian authorities end a jail siege. Bet you didn't know all this was going on, because we don't talk about Russia. No, we don't. And there's a particular reason they're not talking about these guys. Islamic State prisoners who took 2 guards hostage in a Russian jail have been killed and their captives freed, officials said on Sunday. Authorities in the southern Rostov region said that it had brought the siege to a swift end, killing hostage takers. The prison guards are unharmed. The prison service had earlier reported that 2 guards had been taken hostage by an unspecified number of Islamic State detainees at Rostov's detention center number 1, and that negotiations were going on. Translation, we're setting you all up to die. But a short time later, it issued a statement that during a special operation, the criminals were liquidated and the employees who were taken hostage were released and not injured. There would be no further details. A police source told TASS that the Russian state news agency, that IS members who were due to appear in court on terrorism charges were among those hostage takers. They were reported to holed up in the prison courtyard armed with a pocket knife, a baton, and an axe, the sources said. The Interfax news agency reported that there were 6 hostage takers who demanded to be provided with a car and to be allowed to leave the prison in exchange for the release of hostages. So, yeah, that didn't work out too well for them. Jane says no SEALs or Rangers for women because men can deal with the pressure and no monthly menstruation. And Urban Angst is here. Glad you could make it today. And JD911 says, yeah, but if they drafted women, they could put in non-combat roles like cooks, barbers, quartermasters. That's true. And Urban Angst says Russia knows how to handle Islam. And there's there's a reason that they had a take no prisoners attitude here, and I'm going to elaborate in a moment when I tell you who it alleges 6 hostage takers, Islamic terrorist hostage takers. I'm going to tell you who they are in a moment. Mara says, I hope the U.S. military draft won't begin too soon because many young people between the ages of 18 through 26 are going to feel very sad and scared. They won't pass the exams. They're going to get 4F'd, as they used to say. They're going to get 4F'd. They're what you call skinny fat. Most of the people that volunteer for the Army are rejected nowadays. We read an article about that not too long ago. They get rejected anyways. So I'm sure that a lot of them wouldn't even pass the physical or the psychological exam. And Jane says, oh, he's talking to Jill and Dave, excuse me, as I catch up here. But back to the article. The incident comes nearly, this is who these guys are associated with. The incident comes nearly 3 months after gunmen killed 144 people when they opened fire inside of a concert hall near Moscow in an attack claimed by this jihadist group. You didn't see that in the media, did you? Hundreds more were injured in the March 22 attack at the Crocus City Hall, the deadliest on Russian soil for 2 decades. More than 20 people have since been arrested, including the 4 suspected gunmen. All are from the former Soviet Republic of Tajikistan, an impoverished country on the Afghanistan's northern border. So, yeah, you didn't know that a lot of people might not be aware that Islamic hardcore jihadists have been carrying out terrorist attacks in Russia. Successfully, 144 people killed, hundreds wounded. And I'll tell you, it ain't that easy to get a firearm in Russia. You can. If I was a Russian citizen, I could get a firearm for hunting and even self-defense. But it's not that simple. It's not quite that system. It's not quite that simple. Chillin says we didn't see it because Russian prison folks handled it right. Yeah, you can't negotiate with them and let them escape and do what? No, they weren't going anywhere, even if it meant collateral damage on the part of the hostages. Russia's not going to tolerate that. They're not going to tolerate that. So, yeah, there you are. It makes you wonder what at some point in the future Russia may have in store for the Middle East. Because they sure as hell don't like them. I'll tell you that right now. They don't like Islam, they don't like Muslims, and they don't like the Middle East. And especially with this kind of stuff going on. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. So I wonder how that's going to work out in the long run. But that's how they handle it. And like I said, this is stuff you don't hear about. The 144 people that were killed at that concert was barely a blip in the news. But if there's a shooting at a 7-Eleven in Colorado and 3 people were wounded, they would call it a mass shooting event and it would be blown up in the media, especially if somebody was black. Fluke Man says, isn't it true Russia is a seriously racist country? Citizens even kill children. Eastern Bloc, Europe, they can be very. There's a lot of bad blood going back decades, even hundreds of years. But they sure don't like Islam. Chillin says historically Russia has screwed Iran several times, yet here they are, buddy again. Oh, they're both pretending. They're both pretending. And Urban says because Russia's bad and Putin ate everyone's homework. Yeah, that must be it. Putin ate my homework. I need a new assignment. I need a new assignment. But speaking of Putin, this is what we get in the West. This is the kind of article they like to push here, okay? Trying to make something out of nothing. Another Putin article is a Metro News article. coming up here any second now. There we go. Putin stashing years of food in a remote nuclear bunker. Oh no, say it is so. What's he doing that for? I'm going to read the article and I'm going to make a point here real quick. An anonymous source has claimed that Vladimir Putin is stashing massive quantities of food in a bunker equipped for nuclear fallout. Food to feed up to 300 people for several years has allegedly been sent to the bunker in the remote Altai Mountains. The chilling claim, is that really so chilling? Comes amid deep tension between Russia and the West over Ukraine, as Putin on Friday warned that NATO leaders are pushing him to the point of no return over a nuclear third world war. A source who claims to be involved in loading the food told Pozhyanov Telegram channel that the boxes with dry rations, cereals, and canned food are being shifted on a gargantuan scale to the remote Siberian location. Oh no. Nearby is a Putin escape named Altai Yard, where earlier reports indicate the Kremlin dictator constructed a giant underground nuclear bunker of the food. The source was quoted as saying, "I've never seen anything like it. Imported, expensive, not ours," or Russian, that is. The products are brought to a warehouse in the mountain region and presumed Putin's security team takes charge. Okay. You see how they puff this garbage up? You show me government leadership that doesn't have bunkers, nuclear resistant bunkers for its lawmakers. Show me. Show me. Republic of the Congo, maybe. Someplace that can't afford it, basically. I bet you Haiti doesn't have much of a bunker, but they probably got one. And if he's got a mass amount of food, my guess is that's most likely a rotation, because if you get the long-term storage food, it might have a shelf life of 30 years. So it might be time for rotation if that's the case. But this, again, you think that Biden doesn't have a bunker? All of Congress will be protected. We'll be out here baking. We'll be getting stir-fried. And all the lawmakers that caused the war in the first place will be nice and safe in an air-conditioned bunker with all they can eat and plenty of entertainment. Jones Life says the likely case with Russia and Iran is a case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Of course. And Flukeman says jihad killing Russians, aren't they the same as Hamas? But Putin doesn't see Hamas as a terrorist group. That's because they're not fighting him. Jane says, who's winning the war between Russia and Ukraine? No idea. No idea. Technically speaking, Ukraine probably lost that war a year ago, and they've been on life support with money from the European Union and the United States the whole time. But you'll never get the truth in the West. They're not going to tell you. They're just not going to tell you. And Jones Life says, last they checked, still a slight Ukrainian edge. Like I said, if you can trust anything that you hear, as far as that's concerned. Remember, some of you have been around long enough to remember when YouTube content creators, that is YouTube channels, were warned by Google not to say anything negative about the Ukraine and not to talk about the war, or else they would shut your channel down. So if there's anything contrary, you'll never hear it. You'll never hear it. They shut us down a long time ago. They shut us all down a long time ago. But that's the spin. And speaking of spin, and this is a great example of that spin, and I wanted to share this here today. I'm going to see if I can pull this video clip up. Okay, let me try to pause this and set up the audio. This is from Netflix. This is a new on Netflix clip, and I have to confess, I'm not sure what's going on with that. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what movie this is from, but I needed to share this with you because it demonstrates the ignorance of how guns are portrayed in the United States and purchasing of firearms and all of that. This is important. And I had commented on this clip actually. I had commented on this, but I'm going to share this really quickly. And this is everything that's wrong in the media when it comes to firearms.
Hi.
Hi. You want to handle it first, or are you ready to buy?
I'm ready.
You got a photo ID? All right. Just going to need you to fill this out here. Pen there. There you go. You want a scope and a sling for that too?
Yes, please.
Does make for a nicer profile. Now this sling might give you a little trouble. These little spring clips. If you need any assistance, just let me know. There you go. Let's see this. I think you made a mistake here. This one, see, I can't sell this to you if you acquire it on behalf of someone else. I think you meant to check that box. That's the one. All right. Want a high capacity magazine with that?
Okay.
Good call.
Okay, you're all set. Have a superstore day.
I got it.
Thanks, man. I'll call you later.
You promise to keep that safety on?
Promise. See ya.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Now, for those of you who could not see that, what you have is basically what looks like a little kid with a baseball cap pulled down over his eyes and a pair of glasses and a huge jacket. He looks like he's 4 feet tall. Walks into a gun store. All right. And again, I don't know what movie this is. Maybe somebody can tell me what film this is, because I'm not sure. This is a Netflix thing. And it offends me for a lot of reasons. And that's why I'm talking about it. But he just basically walks in and he was like, yeah, I want to buy that rifle. And the guy sells him the rifle, sells him a bunch of other junk, says you got ID, makes him fill out a piece of paper, and he walks out with the rifle and hands it to another kid. He hands it to some other kid on a bicycle or whatever, right? Just making a straw purchase. Anyone in here ever buy a gun in the United States? None of this would possibly happen. They wouldn't even have allowed him to keep his baseball cap on. Seriously. They would not have even let him keep his baseball cap on. And background checks. You know, I've bought guns in 4 different states, including Massachusetts, in the 80s. And they were doing Brady then. You know, you don't just fill out a piece of paper and, oh, see you, Charlie. Okay. And, oh, you got an ID here. Let me look at that real quick. That's not how any of this works. But this is how a lot of people believe it works. This is how a lot of people believe it works. And the people who wrote this garbage know this. Not only do they know this, but they know this is not how it works. They know you can't just walk in and do that. They know no gun shop is going to risk their license, losing their inventory, and possibly going to jail for doing something like this. They know that most people aren't going to be willing to do a straw purchase for someone else because of the legal ramifications. This is insulting on a lot of levels. Many states, you got to jump through a lot of hoops. I can't tell you how much of a pain in the ass it was in Illinois. Plus waiting periods. Plus you have to have more than one form of ID. Plus you have to have a FOID card for registration. And plus and plus and plus. There's no way that person could have made this purchase. Not in America, Jack. Not that easy. No way. But that's, you know, this is what it ties in with what I'm always talking about. And Chillin' Dave says, what BS? Exactly. This is what I'm always talking about when I say that people are not that smart. Not only are people not that smart, but they're lazy and they're dishonest too. And the people who wrote this, they know the truth, but it fits their narrative to spin this. And they know that most people who see it aren't going to bother to research whether or not any of that is even possible. And in the comments, there's like 1,000 comments under that video clip from Netflix, okay? There's like 1,000 comments. And half of them are like, oh my God, no wonder there's so many mass shootings. Oh my God, I didn't know it was so easy to get a gun in America. Oh my God, this and that and the other. Because they're ignorant. And you can't tell them nothing. Because you may make a plausible argument, but they're not going to believe you because they choose not to. And that's where the dishonesty comes in. They choose not to. Jones Life says they have a few sources from the region talking about the Ukraine again. He says it's not going well for anyone. I couldn't imagine. I could imagine it's probably not going well for anybody. Monkey says they did buy a gun before, and yeah, you had to show ID, also fill out the info on the computer before you can even purchase it, because they do register that. Jones Life said they wanted me to take off my cowboy hat and pull the long hair I had back when I bought mine in 1911. And Jane also says their ex-hubby bought them a Lady Wesson and said if I sell it to ensure, keep the proof who you sell it to. And Chillin' Dave says, plus you'd need the crazy amount of cash. Yeah, guns aren't cheap, in case nobody ever realized. And JD said in Nevada, they only needed a valid Nevada ID to buy pistols. I believe anyone could buy long guns with a valid ID, but you still have to pay for the background check. Yeah. There you go. There you go. But like I said, it's insulting on a lot of levels. And they're counting on the fact, and that's something I talk about a lot on here, people are stupid. They're stupid and they're too lazy to look into it, to research it, to read it, to find out if it's true, to find out whether there's any truth to it or not. Monkey said the film is making it look like it bribing a bum at the liquor store to get alcohol. And, I'll tell you, there's so much spin. You'd be surprised how much once you've actually had some experience with it. Working in convenience stores in the 80s, all right, and early 90s. I worked at Store 24. I worked at Christie's Market. I worked at Cumberland Farms back in the day. If you're on the East Coast, some of you probably remember those places. I think Christie's Market is gone now. I think they were bought out by 7-Eleven. But, we used to sell tobacco. And in a couple of those places, we also sold liquor. And at that time, I don't know if it still is, but Massachusetts was a dry state. So no liquor on Sunday and no liquor after before 11 a.m. or after 11 p.m., if I remember correctly. And you're supposed to check ID. Even back then, you're supposed to check ID for cigarettes, for alcohol. And how many times do you think anyone tried to slip a fake ID by me? How about never? But all you hear about is fake ID, fake ID, fake ID. I never had anybody try it. Never. I had people show an ID and it was their ID and they weren't old enough and they were hoping I would notice. I had people who would show someone else's ID and it's like, dude, this ain't you. Get out of here. That sort of thing. But an actual, like someone's out there making fake identification for people and they're using it to buy liquor. I never experienced it. What we did have a lot of problems with was the Boston Police Department trying to entrap cashiers all the time, every week, especially with the tobacco. What they would do is you'd have somebody and they'd come in and they go to buy cigarettes and you look at the ID and you'd be like, wait a minute. And you look more carefully and you realize they were technically still 17 because they're about to turn 18 at midnight. Like birthday is tomorrow. Or liquor. This also happened with liquor. Someone is 20 and 11 hours and 59 minutes old. This evening, in like 3 or 4 hours, they're going to turn 21. And, you know, when you look carefully at the ID, you realize, oh, and it's like, no, dude, you're not old enough yet. You come back tomorrow. And then they would look and there'd be a couple of guys standing somewhere in the store and they'd go like this and they'd leave and get into a car with a white plate, Boston Police Department, and drive away. All the time. They are always trying to entrap cashiers, and it's a huge ticket. It's a huge ticket. But I had more problems with that than anyone else. Every once in a while I get the stupid kid, he's got someone else's ID, and it's like, get the hell out of here. But no fake IDs, not that I recall. And again, it was always narcs. There was always narcs, and then they'd always meet up with a couple of big dudes, and then they'd get into an unmarked vehicle and drive off. And I actually knew a cashier, I think it was at Christie's Market, who lost her job over that because she missed it. She missed it. And tell me how this is helping. Someone explain this to me. I know I went way down a rabbit hole with this, but it bothers me because you're attacking the store for making a mistake with it. And to me, that is entrapment. You're 20 years old and 11 hours and 59 minutes. You're going to turn 21 at midnight. And, you know, you've been ringing the cashier you've been at the register for 6 hours already. You're tired. You've already done like 500 customers, and somebody comes up to buy a beer, and you look at the ID, and for a second there, your mind slips and you don't remember. This is what happened to this cashier. And she was from Ethiopia, and she was going to school. She was an exchange student working on her, she came here to go to school, and she had a work permit. She was doing everything right, trying to get her citizenship. Now she's going to court. And Christie's fired her because that happened to save themselves from the liability. And she was facing a $3,000 fine. And she was like, I made a mistake. Yeah. You tell me how that's preventing kids from getting cigarettes and alcohol. Someone explain that to me. I don't understand something. And then, so you're basically punishing a cashier for making a mistake. Meanwhile, the kids that are really getting drugs and cigarettes and alcohol are probably stealing it from their parents. Because when I was growing up, that's where all the kids I knew that had alcohol or cigarettes got them from. They weren't walking into stores and buying them. Oh no, I went way down the rabbit hole. Way down the rabbit hole on that one, but that just really bothers me. And that jogged my memory on all of that. Because it's unfair. You're abusing those cashiers so that you can ticket them. So you can charge outrageous fines on cashiers and on businesses for making an error in judgment and missing the date. And like I said, the date is so close. It's so close. Monkey says, did you ever have the time where there were multiple people together and only one person was buying the alcohol and had to ID everyone? Not really. Not in the convenience store setting. I've had young people try to steal beer or try to snatch cigarettes. Plus, we had the book. You know, I don't know if they still do this. They probably do. I imagine they do. There was a book that had a photograph of every ID from the United States in it, so that you could flip through and compare if you weren't sure, because they look different in different states. They look different in different states. Now, this next one is a top. They're eating this alive in the media, because it has to do with Biden. It has to do with Biden. Monkey says, let me catch up. JD says they used to sell kits to make fake IDs in magazines like High Times and Hit Parader. They were pretty bad, though. Yeah, I can't imagine they would pass the smell test if you compared it to what an ID is supposed to look like in the book, especially back then when a printer was like the size of a Buick. It's not like nowadays where everybody's got a printer sitting on their desk. Monkey says, clarifying here, if person A and B were together, person A is 20 and bought regular drinks, no alcohol, but person B is 22 and bought some beer, and you had to ID both of them because of it. Well, that sounds to me more like something that would happen in a restaurant. Jane says their daughter told them that she did that in high school, asked an old man to go in the store, gave him $10 to get beer for the teens. I raised a bad girl, but I am not one. Oops. And Fluke Man worked at a supermarket in the 2000s, made us read a real life story of a coworker teenager at another store who got entrapped by another kid who worked for the authorities. Yeah, because that's what they do. That's what they do, and they get them to set you up. But this is the big news, because not Barack Obama, yeah, Barack O'Biden. Oh my God, Biden embarrassed himself again. They're blowing this up. I don't know how bad this actually is. I'll show you the film clip. That's Biden and Obama on stage with Jimmy Kimmel at a fundraiser, and you see Biden standing there like a mannequin, and then Obama grabs his wrist and pulls him and puts his hands on his back and pushes him towards the backstage, leads him off stage. And the curtain goes down. This is a fundraiser. I think it was Los Angeles. Am I mistaken? But the media is eating it alive, because this is another situation where Biden seems to freeze, like he doesn't know where he is or what to do. He's just stuck. And he did the same thing. He did the same thing at the Juneteenth festival, where everybody is clapping and swaying to the music, and he's standing there just staring. But Obama caught it. He looks over, he goes lost in mind, and takes his wrist and walks him off the stage. And Jimmy Kimmel follow him, puts his hand on his back and pushes him. He's saying something to him, but of course you can't hear it. The music is blaring. I had to actually turn it down. A lot of people are talking about that, because this is the second time in as many days that he has appeared to have just froze. He appeared to just freeze up, which doesn't surprise me. And Urban Angst wants to assure us that he's still here. Okay, Urban, thank you. And then Jane says, oh, sugar, he might have the big dementia. Yeah, I have speculated for a long time. I've speculated for a long time that a lot of what he does, it's possibly plausible deniability, that maybe he is faking it so that in case he is ever called on any of it, they can sit there and say, oh, well, he can't stand trial, or he can't stand before Congress or whatever. His mind is gone. It won't. He can't do it. He's not sound. He's not medically fit. But man, if that's the case, he's a damn good actor. He's a damn good actor. And JD says it's not as bad as the video of Biden pooping his pants while standing next to Marcone. Yeah, we're not sure about that one. The jury's out on that one. I know that's what they assumed had happened. He looks like he's reaching for the chair that's behind him, but it's way too far, and it wasn't time to sit. And Jill had to straighten him out there. But I think if he had actually had an accident that had gotten him off stage before the fluid started running out of his shoes. Oh my God. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Jane reminding us about the kiss between First Lady Biden and Vice President's husband a year ago. Some kiss, President Biden not doing his husbandly duties. Yeah, he doesn't look like even Viagra could help him at this point. I don't think he's even a ED medication would probably kill him. It's probably kill him, but it just doesn't end with this guy. The embarrassment, as I'm sure you've heard the problem with the Pope as well, and I've got that article sitting here, New York Post, because he's getting around though, dude. He is getting around, but here he is with the Pope. Biden embraces surprised-looking Pope Francis with forehead-to-forehead hug at the G7 summit. So President Biden embraced a surprised-looking Pope Francis with a forehead-to-forehead hug on Friday during the second day of the G7 summit in Italy. 87-year-old pontiff had been wheeled into a room of world leaders to take part in a discussion of issues surrounding, and tell me why the Pope is talking about this, artificial intelligence, energy, and the Africa-Mediterranean region. He is the first Pope ever to attend a G7 gathering. It's because he's the most corrupt one yet. Other leaders joining the discussion included Argentina President Javier Milei, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. I don't care about that. The 81-year-old Biden, America's second Roman Catholic president, was scheduled to meet privately with Francis later on Friday. And he gives him the old man headbutt there. And Francis does look confused in the photo. I'll blow it up for those of you who can see. That's actually a great shot. It actually looks like Biden is threatening him, doesn't it? Listen, old man. Listen, old man. Do you know who I am? It really looks like he's being threatened. Where are we? Legend says he's not looking forward to this November. I bet you're not. I bet you're not. And Jane says Pope gave him a Father's Day concert with U.S. Funny Guys comedies this year. And JD says Biden looks like he's trying to move in to make out with him. Yeah, it looks like he's threatening him. It looks like a mafioso moment there. A senior administration official told reporters the president and Pope were likely to discuss the situation in the Ukraine, as well as the Israel-Hamas war, and AI and climate change. The sit-down will be Biden's last major event before he departs this summer for the U.S. to attend a Hollywood fundraiser hosted by actor George Clooney, which you just saw a clip of. That's the one where he froze on stage again. But you tell me, I thought the Pope was supposed to save souls. But I guess if you're the vicar of Christ, you don't have to worry about that, because whatever you say goes. You're speaking for Yeshua. You're speaking for Jesus until his return. Isn't that the idea? So we're talking about energy, climate change, artificial intelligence, the war in Israel, and the war in the Ukraine. That's what the Pope's talking about. Why? Why is that? And Cyberjack Sr. is here. He says he'll start from the beginning later after the show. Well, I appreciate it. At least somebody's watching. And Jane says, do not know but heard about it on the radio. Pope says he needs to laugh more. I bet And Christo says he has a wild tinfoil hat theory concerning a certain young Middle Eastern tribal country that starts with an I and ends with an L. They are self-immolating to move to Africa. Agenda 2063. Really? And Tuck says if Biden is in the creepiest POTUS in history, he's got to be in the top 3. Yeah. I totally agree. He is creepy. Again, in politics, 5 decades. 5 decades. And I will tell you, he really hasn't accomplished anything in that time that I think, okay? As far as I know. But here's the thing. And Puck says AI like AI Jesus and THX 1138 movie. That's right. THX 1138, and you sit in the booth and the picture of Jesus lights up. He totally distracted me there. Oh no. That's true though. THX 1138 is a good post-apocalyptic film. It's a little weird, but it's a good post-apocalyptic film. I know a lot of people are not looking forward to this November. It's going to be weird. Again, Biden being the weirdest president I was alluding to. He's been in politics for 50 years. I really can't demonstrate that he's done anything that has changed the country or the world, for that matter, for anything good or useful. But he has been strange like this ever since his brain surgery. He's had 2, correct? 2 brain surgeries for aneurysms. And ever since then, all the hair smelling and the weird touching and the bizarre stories have been going on since. And Christo says the continent of Africa is splitting and Ethiopia is being separated, Ethiopia being home to some of the oldest Christian sites other than Syria, also compared to the flags of the country of Ethiopia. And Jane says, good show, must leave, but listening since they do remote work. Okay. And Tuck says he saw THX recently, and it's worth the time. Yeah, it's one of Spielberg's earliest films, right? It's Spielberg, correct? And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had a small part in it when he was doing some acting in the 70s. He was also in an episode of The Man from Atlantis. Man from Atlantis, which was a really good miniseries, but then when they made it a regular series, was it George Lucas? Puck says. But when they made it into a regular show, they screwed it up. They screwed it up. As we shift gears here, we're going to talk about Los Angeles again. While they're out there fundraising, meanwhile, the streets are being stripped clean. We've already read about streetlights having to be removed by the city and replaced with stop signs because people are stealing the wiring out of them, which is very dangerous. We've read about fire plugs being stolen. Fire plugs. How about a bridge? CBS News. Thieves pilfer the Los Angeles iconic 6th Street Bridge for metal, leaving the landmark in the dark. There you go. Let's just strip down the bridge. And again, I ask, who's buying this stuff? You ever try to sell anything to a scrapyard? They've got to be buying it illegally. I mean, hell, I had problems back in Illinois bringing an old air conditioning unit when we placed it in our house there. And they wanted to contact the plumber to make sure we didn't steal it someplace. So you're supposed, the scrapyard is supposed to be discerning. It's like a pawn shop. is supposed to be discerning. You don't just buy anything. There are rules. Apparently, they don't follow them in California. So here we go. Hundreds of people every day walk on the Los Angeles 6th Street Bridge, but at sundown they disappear, and the ribbon of light goes completely in the dark. About 7 miles from end to end of copper wire has been stolen. 7 miles of copper wire, according to LA City Councilman Kevin De Leon. And he told CBS News, these lights are becoming ATM machines. The eye-catching bridge, which traverses the LA River and the 101 freeway connecting the historic Boyle Heights neighborhood to the downtown LA Art District, opened to great fanfare in July of 2022 and at a cost of nearly $600 million, but now has Angelinos shaking their heads in dismay. Over the past year, thieves have gradually stripped the light poles, the lights, the poles, and the copper wire that illuminate the bridge's arches. The stolen metal is in total is worth about $11,000, according to Leon. What they're getting actually is pennies on the dollar, De Leon said. It cost taxpayers millions to do the repairs. So is that $11,000 how much the scrap is technically worth, or how much they estimate they got for the scrap? It's still not enough. It's still not enough. And Puck says, I'm surprised this California didn't make the stop signs out of copper. Yeah, right. And Tuck says, recycling infrastructure. Well, if they're stripping and chopping the wire, the scrapyard may have no reason to turn them away. Well, legally, they're supposed to be discerning about stuff that's brought in, and they're supposed to reject it if they think it's stolen. And if you brought me a mile of copper wire that looks like it was pulled out of some kind of infrastructure, I would turn you away and be like, where the hell did you get this? If you brought me a fire hydrant, I would turn you away. You see what I'm saying? That's how it's supposed to go. I want to know where they're bringing this. Instead of worrying about who's stealing it, figure out where they're taking it, because there's no way they're melting the stuff down or shredding it. The people stealing this stuff don't have that type of resource. So where are they bringing it to? Where are they bringing it? It's going somewhere. So find out who is breaking the rules by accepting all of this that's being stolen from the city infrastructure and crack down on them. How hard could it be? Oh, but I forget, they laid off most of their police. They laid off half of them because of racism. And then they laid off the other half for refusing to get the jab. Tuck says they haven't scrapped anything in about 12 years. I wonder how hard it is now. But like I said, when we tried to sell an old air conditioning unit that we replaced, house unit in Illinois when we were still living there, they didn't want to take it. They wanted to find out from they wanted to verify that the plumber had removed it and we didn't just come and take it somewhere. And then it was only worth like $13. It wasn't even worth taking it down there because you don't get much. You don't get hardly anything for scrap. You got to bring tons and tons. I don't know how these people who collect scrap and drive up and down the street and pick out scrap from people's trash and dumpsters. I don't know how the hell they make any money. I don't know how they can afford it. You've seen them driving a beat to death pickup truck, and there's all bicycles and all kinds of garbage laying back there, walkers and whatever they can get. I mean, the fuel costs alone, it can't be worth much. And JD says LA likes their thieves and won't even put them in jail. They made their bed. Yeah, I got to agree there. But with that, we are at the top of the hour, so I will go ahead and start signing off. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk. And if you wanted to join the live portion, if you're listening somewhere else, you can find us on YouTube Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University, at Coffee Talk Live at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. So with that, I will say farewell. Thank you, everybody who was able to join us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation.